It is hard to think of an industry of greater strategic importance to Britain than its pharmaceutical industry. That is a quote from Theresa May from July 2016, and it's on the front of this report from the Association of British Pharmaceutical Industries and the Bioindustry Association, written in September 2016. The question now is, now that the EMA has left the UK, will the UK leave the EMA? As in, the EMA is the regulatory agency of the single market for medicines. So all of the EU plus the other EEA countries have a common system for medicines and its approval, which is through the EMA. So the question is, do we want to stick with that market of over 500 million people and its common systems and common way of doing things, or do we want to split off as our own market of 65 million people with our own regulator for what products can be developed and sold within the UK? That's the question. Do we stick with the EMA, or do we empower our own medical and healthcare products regulatory agency, MHRA? During the referendum debate, the case was made by the Leave campaign for splitting away, for having our own innovative regulatory framework, citing the Clinical Trials Directive of the EU, citing red tape and all the rest. You know, we should trash all of that and have our own that can approve medicines faster and quicker. That was the case being made. The key thing is that this isn't what our industry wants. So to come back to this report, by the representation for this trade in pharmaceuticals and other medical healthcare products, let me read you the summary of what they want. The single regulatory system provides the scale and certainty required to bring innovative, effective and stable medical technologies to UK patients quickly. The two globally significant regulators, the US Food and Drug Administration, FDA, and European Medicines Agency, EMA, cover markets comprising 32% and 25% of global pharmaceutical sales respectively. The Americans really consume drugs like on a massive scale. Think about those numbers and think about population size, but that's a diversion, because that's a whole issue in itself. Their dominant position means they are the first choice market for new products and the long tail of economic benefit in the form of industry investment that brings. Creating a standalone UK regulator would require significant resource, time and expertise, and, by lowering its priority, would likely still leave the UK behind the US and EU for new product launches to the detriment of UK patients. There are concerns that the current state of uncertainty may already be leading to a loss of UK influence in Europe in key scientific and regulatory discussions and decisions. Commonality with the EU regulatory system, alignment of current and future regulations and participation in European processes could be achieved through a regulatory cooperation agreement negotiated with the EU. This would allow the UK to remain a key participant in European regulatory procedures and decisions, retain influence and benefit from the scale of the common regulatory framework. So their clear ambition was, no, don't go and set up alone. That would be bad news. What we want is a deal whereby we stick with what we've got. And they repeat this again on page 14, saying, the industry appreciate that the UK may adopt a standalone regulator model. However, this would be non-preferable and has significant disadvantages associated with it. The resulting additional regulatory burden will add cost for industry and the UK government. The UK would be deprioritised as an early launch market, delaying patient access to innovative products and offsetting expected benefits from the AAR. To mitigate this, the MRHA and VMD, that's the Veterinary Medicines Directorate, would need to effectively recognise EU authorisation for the majority of products, aiming to use the same file, same timeline, and ensure a quick, pain-free process for industry. There is no appetite from industry to fund the MHRA or VMD to undertake standalone approvals for all products. So that is pretty damn authoritative. Our pharmaceuticals industry wants to keep the system that we've got. If we can't do it by staying in the EU, can't do it by staying in the single market, then please, please do it by a deal is what they're asking. So what is the government doing? The government is sort of got one ear on this industry and what it wants and making some promissory noises, but at the same time, because of its ECJ red lines and its Brexity notions about going independent on regulations, is also aiming long-term for something different and also aiming to come out of the single market. So this is making our industry very nervous. If you look at the guidance on the EMA website itself as to what businesses should do, they say whether it comes to qualified people in pharmacovigilance or whether it comes to batch checking processes or whether it comes to pharmacovigilance files or all of these processes associated with making and finishing drugs and then checking their safety as they go into market, all of this needs to be based in the single market. Therefore, it directly advises companies worried to up sticks and set up operations elsewhere in the EU. It has been estimated by a spokesperson from the Association for the British Pharmaceutical Industry that this would cost hundreds of millions. In fact, AstraZeneca has already spent millions starting to duplicate key processes elsewhere in the EU. And this is where the timing becomes critical. If we are leaving in March 2019, then our industries need to know before then if there's going to be a deal, if there's going to be something to smooth it in. If not, then they're going to be invoking contingency plans by about this Christmas or early in the new year, which makes this deadline coming up absolutely critical. Now, our government, in order to get this deal, have to get over the divorce bill, which they don't seem to be doing well. And this is where Ireland comes in, because Ireland's now saying it doesn't matter how much you're going to pay in the divorce bill, we're not letting you get onto that second round unless you can provide decent solutions for the customs border in Ireland. So this is really, really buggering up UK ability to retain pharmaceutical industry in the UK, and it's making recruitment harder and it's making inward investment slow down to a crawl. So here's the summary deal. This EMA story is in two parts. Part one is that the EMA itself has gone from London to Amsterdam, where it will be setting up, taking a whole load of expertise and business networking with it. Step two is that it has a whole framework which our government hasn't decided whether we're going to stick with or leave. And because of that uncertainty, unless this gets sorted quickly, there are going to be more and more actual pharmaceuticals and healthcare products companies departing to set up sticks elsewhere in the EU, because that's the only way that they're going to have access to that larger and more important market.